Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have finally made it. We've made it to the end of a 2-day historic summit, Innovation in Agriculture and Energy Opportunity Zone Summit 2020. Almost in the books, ladies and gentlemen. And we want to thank you on the front end of things for joining us, having the fortitude and the intentionality to get something out of this 2-day session. I don't even question whether you did. It's just a matter of what you're going to do with it. We're going to help you in that area by summarizing the 2 days with some subject matter experts, thought leaders, friends. So much. The friends, we call them a part of our family. We don't almost. We call them a part of our family. We thank on our panel this 4:30 hour. Retired Major General Nick Justice joining us, educator Joyce Richardson Matthews, and Jose Perez, CEO of Hispanics in Energy, will be joining us. It's just getting the call-in number. I want to thank, before we get started in summarizing what has been a two-day experience of overcoming obstacles and concerns, and also connecting with our excitement, knowing that we've started a conversation that doesn't end here. It starts, but it will be over the 5-year course of time that we will be intentional, deliberate, and committed to making sure that the conversations convert. They convert into the things that we can literally call what works. We do that in a time that's historic. We do that at a time when somehow we got to a place where historically we've reached a pandemic that has done so much, not only damage and destruction, but has diverted our normal way of living. And it's important that this summit go down in history as a summit that is committed to work in spite of the obstacles, to accomplish and achieve and to inspire in spite of internet disconnections and trouble with getting on and communicating and exchanging. We will be editing every conversation, every presentation, so that it's in what we call digestible formats, so that you can truly appreciate, much less understand, why we're having this conversation, so that we can help inspire, engage, and empower you to be a part truly of the 21st century of what works. So before I begin, I want to make sure that Joyce and Nick are ready. And just thank you both for both your energy and excitement about not only being on this panel and participating over the last 2 days, but the help, the input, the advice, the direction, and the encouragement, most of all, that you've allowed our team to be motivated and guided to put this 2-day event together. In the absence of our dear friend, once again, Charles Sills, I'd be very dismissive without mentioning that Charles Sills is finishing up a defense leadership conference while he was truly a co-producer of this event, as well as George Walton. George Walton, a retired HBCU mechanical engineer, 30-something years in the Patent and Trade Office. I'd like to think that it's those people that we've really made sure that we pulled this off because they put so much into it. With that, Joyce, I'd like to ask you the first question. Welcome and thank you for bringing your young people on. Let me understand, and most of all, let the audience understand where you believe this summit is making or going to make an impact, what you believe the challenges that it helps, this summit helps you begin to address. We understand it's a beginning, but when we have this conversation, we hope that this beginning turns into the next steps. So why don't you share with us from a teacher's perspective at the elementary school level what this summit has meant to Fairfax Public School System.
Thank you, Keith. And again, I want to thank you and Melvin so much for all of your support. I have enjoyed this conference, and I know that, again, you and I met in 2012 at the USA Science and Engineering Convention. We had great conversation about students being exposed to STEAM, which was awesome. But also we talked about over the years the next step. For me as an educator, a STEAM educator, a person who knows the importance of technology in the lives of children who are underserved, children of color, girls, there's nothing more impactful than introducing students to STEAM professionals. They need to see people like themselves who are successful in this field. They need to see all of the possibilities of career opportunities. And as I shared earlier, working in a school of 900 students, preschool to 5th grade, many of them, 720 in fact, are from Central and South American countries. Many of them walked here to the United States, made it to Fairfax County, Virginia, and have made that their home. The parents have come to us and said to us, we know this is a good school system. We want you to help our children go as far as they can. So summits like this, you have truly answered my question of what's the next level. And the next level is the connection from education to businesses and giving our students a window or a door, opening a door of opportunity to show them what is possible. And you gave us the charge of taking notes. I have lots of notes. I have seen some great presentations, and now, as you know, I gave you a list yesterday of, I need the emails of these people so that I can introduce myself and introduce our students. We had our 5th graders listen in. We had our high school students. You have 2 of them that were able to present and share with you the great things they are doing. They know that they have the opportunity to create their own career. So this has just been powerful. And again, I challenge you now, our next step is to open those doors. And as Ms. Carroll talked about, you know, I knew nothing about Manufacturing Day, where these organizations will let children in. We can do that digitally until we can get back into the school building. So there are a lot of opportunities, and I just challenge you and those of you who have presented to help us make those connections.
I look forward to truly the next steps, which will be intentional and deliberate. Let me just quickly piggyback and throw my own challenge forward. Joyce and I were on a call, and I think Damon from Microsoft was on it as well, so he's witness. And I said to you, I said, Joyce, you know, the school systems, public, et cetera, have to begin to, and I'm moving from pre-K to 5th grade to junior high to high school to colleges, especially our HBCUs and our land grants, to reform the way you think about education as a academic experience and teaching environment into a corporation, a business where your customers, your constituents, your stakeholders are the ones you're delivering your product to. By doing so, people from the boardroom, from the superintendent to the faculty, those who've been around for a long time and those who are coming in and inspired to be educators, can recognize that you have an end game in line. You have a product to deliver, which is to graduate students and to be the best and the brightest, to take on competition and be excellent in what they do. I did share that with you, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So we anticipate a mutual exchange of transforming and meeting expectations that we newly established as a result of these two-day conversations. But in the meantime, Nick, you have been a senior advisor, and you're only senior because you've had many leadership roles, and that's the only place you need to be right now, is to advising those of us who are trying to make it on the other side, to do the right thing and to transform cultures. So what is your thoughts about the two-day experience, and how do you tie it into your thoughts on next steps based upon just the conversation you heard from me and Joyce right now?
Well, we've got a school teacher in there, and I spent a lot of time with school teachers as a young boy, mostly in disciplinary situations. So I'll make sure I raise my hand before I talk and get recognized, Keith. But Joyce, I just want to tell you, I really loved a couple of comments you made, and I want to piggyback right off of those. And before I begin, what I'm going to say is being a champion of STEAM is awesome. I have had a chance to do that in my military career. Since I was running science and research for the Army, we just took on a STEAM mission because it was great for recruiting. It's just awesome. And as soon as you put technology in the hands of young people, I will tell you, you see them get fired up and excited about what they're doing. So you are spot on. And that right there has got to be a lesson that we put on the results of this panel, is STEAM education is important, and it's got to be a component for the solution. I like the title of this wrap up because frankly, it describes, it gives us a chance to not just live the experience here, but now to shape what we've taken from the experience and do something with it, make what we do better, refine it and sharpen it. So I'm just start out with the title and say, what are the challenges to growth? And I ended up sitting there thinking back through the last couple of days. Some of the things I wrote a bunch of notes, but I guarantee you mine are not neatly organized like Joyce's are. Mine are doodles and all over the back of papers and all kinds of things. So disciplinary problems, I'm sure that Joyce knows how to deal with as well. So, but I was going to say the challenges we have to growth, and I would just put down, started listing things, and I came up with like 5 different C's that are what stands in our way. And if you listen to everything, the elements of those 5 things underpinned industry talks, government, our government officials that came in and contributed what they're trying to bring to the table, and just pure experience and challenges we have across all of our communities, frankly. And I think the first one is we have lost a sense of community that is very empowering. A lot of times our cities have grown so large that they've become fractured in cultures and different focuses. And it's not a factory town. It's not this is the farmer's market and everybody's going to see everybody in town on Saturday morning when we go get eggs and vegetables and things like that. So there's a sense of community that becomes maybe the #1 challenge. How do we empower a stronger sense of community for what we're going to do? I will tell you, you start listening to the opportunity zones and the complexity of that goes around setting those up and engaging in them and finding sponsors for it. There is a lack of clear practice. What are the best practices of moving forward and bringing the empowerment to our communities that we need, and moving forward in what is a very high-tech future we face without a clear understanding of all that technology and how it's applied? How do we get those clear practices that we want to do? And I think the other one is that complexity. We started talking about supply chain yesterday, things like, it is very clear that everyone listening had a I gotcha moment when they said, wow, I didn't realize that was in that supply chain. I had never thought about that holistic environment. So the complexity of things like supply chain, the complexity of keeping current and modern and evolving on, we're evolving the tools we're using online right here. This Microsoft team has changed 2 or 3 times since we went under quarantine. I mean, just that's unheard of. You know, my fountain pen, I went to a big click pen once in my school career after having wet ink fountain pens when I began school. So the complexity and the speed of change is another issue with that. And then that common understanding. I think we can shorten the time to market, the time to impact on the change by creating that stronger community and being able to make information accessible. I just, was thinking about, Joyce, the comment you made about you'd never heard of Manufacturing Day. Well, I have to tell you, before I took over and started a brand new national manufacturing institute, I'd never heard of Manufacturing Day either, but it became a big celebration for us every year. And it was amazing. First year, we grew into it. The second year, next thing you know, all of the industry partners wanted to participate, wanted to open their facilities. And the faculty at the universities were saying, hey, and we want to bring our students out to see the work environment. That's what I talk about, a sense of community. How do I get young people engaged earlier? In my generation, it was pretty easy. You started working on the farm about 8 years old, and by the time you got out of high school, you know how to work, right? Mm-hmm. And the oldest son takes over the farm. The second son goes be a Baptist preacher. Third son goes into the Army, right? And that's kind of the way it worked. It's a much more complicated world today. And having Joyce on here is great, because it's like having George and Gracie right now here, because teachers have such an incredible load that is just, it's an unbelievable workload that they have to deal with. I would tell you right now, I'll compare it to being an Army platoon sergeant, which I was at one time. And I had 40 young people. Joyce probably has 40 young children in her classroom, except in that platoon, I had 3 squad leaders that were in charge of 9 to 11 kids themselves. And the squad was broken into 2 fire teams. That was 1 team leader with 3 to 4 other young soldiers. So when you look at my students, my gosh, I had a platoon sergeant, I had 3 squad leaders, and I had 6 team leaders in there. Literally 1 out of every 4 people in the platoon was a leader, right? And they were tiered and hierarchical. But I can guarantee you, Joyce doesn't have, 10 leaders in her classroom of 40. And so we miss that sense of organize. How do I organize to be effective and challenge with that? I just think that's really it. And I think there's some great opportunities for us following the summit, for KDM to take the bull by the horn and start figuring out how we can figure the best practices, how we can assemble public-private partnerships. And how many times did you hear that spoken by government and by academics and by industry people about partnering with other people, and they couldn't do it? Yesterday, the panel I was on, it was fantastic to hear Dave says, I couldn't even, it was illegal for me to even start my business without the university's blessing. Well, honestly, it probably should be illegal for anybody to start a business without engaging the people that develop the workforce and educate the community and work with the state and local officials to do things like that. So I'll punt that ball right back to you, Keith, and we'll pick up another question to wrestle with.
Nick, Jay, thank you for dropping it like it's hot. But you've dropped it so hot. I've taken notes, and I am rushing. You see me running to get to our next panelist who I feel so bad because he was not able to get on yesterday, but he's on today, and I'm so thankful. And that's Jose L. Perez, co-founder of the first council of its kind in California Utilities Diversity Council. Jose, you are there, correct?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to give you your due because you are due what's just, and your accomplishments must be known. So, speaking of Jose Perez, former president of California Public Utilities Commission, we have two very powerful, no pun intended, people on this call with Joyce and I who we'll flank, right? Jose Perez set new benchmarks and led to new achievements in diversity by California regulated companies. In 2008, Jose co-founded another first council of its kind, the National Utilities Diversity Council, and served as its president for the 3 years, creating a national awareness and synergistic efforts towards reaching diversity goals. Mr. Perez has provided visionary leadership in promoting diversity in the new energy economy from Sacramento, California to Washington, D.C. Jose is a national speaker on diversity, public policy, community and business partnerships, and finance in the energy and utility industries. He has been presented at the National Association of Hispanic Publications in Washington, D.C., National Association of Regulated Utility Commissioners in Denver and San Francisco, National Council of La Raza in New Orleans, and the Mexican American Energy and Engineering Society in San Diego. In 2014, Jose was featured in as one of the nation's most influential Latinos in energy, in Latino Leaders and National Print Publication. And there's just a small amount more. In 1996, Jose founded the Latino Journal, a nonpartisan publication focused on independent analysis of public policy and government from a Latino perspective. Jose earned his degree in government from California State University, Sacramento, and a certificate on corporate governance from the Graduate School of Business at Harvard University in Cambridge. Jose Perez, we are so happy that you are joining us to summarize this historic two-day summit. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Keith. Man, I'm gonna have to take you on the show. That's a very nice presentation there. Really appreciate it. And one thing that really enticed me to participate is the concept of agriculture and how it can be intertwined with opportunity zones, and then how energy overlays that activity. And so, so I'm really delighted to be part of this, and I share in Keith's vision about how we need to help communities move up from their agricultural origins to either develop agriculture of the future or have it merge more with a lot of the centralized population areas that we have around the country. But so I share in that because my personal background is from agriculture. I was one of those young kids that was influenced by a fellow by the name of Cesar Chavez, who was organizing farm workers in the California fields back in the 60s and the 70s, and so I was able to basically get a lot of my roots and a lot of my development from a lot of the work that he did to try to essentially get more respect and better compensation for farm workers in that agriculture sector. But since then, we've been basically embarked on trying to integrate the very successful and growing energy marketplace in the United States. When we got this organization, Hispanics in Energy, off the ground, we had I don't know, maybe a $1.5 trillion value in the energy business, and today it's hovering at $3 trillion. Although the pandemic definitely put some setback on it, but I think it's all temporary. And so what that means for all our communities, all the population groups, what it means is that we have to get pretty on top of the opportunity to gain some of those jobs in the energy sector that, you know, obviously includes the rural communities because of the solar and wind developments, but there's also a lot of pipelines and the more traditional energy components that are affecting agricultural communities. And so what we have found is that the best workforce for the energy industry, especially those that wind up with vocational technical occupations, are folks that come from the agricultural background, because they tend to be their attendance is better. They're more focused. They're more industrious. But the industry tells us that they're really darn good workers, and so that's the thing that we need to figure out. Given now that a lot of the agricultural community is being mechanized, and that there is a shifting of the labor force that's about to affect it because of automation, that you know, we certainly ought to be taking a look at how we retrain some of our communities to get ready for transition into other industries. And I would say that energy one is definitely a very attractive one. So on behalf of Hispanics in Energy and our organization, you know, we commend KDM for putting together this initiative. It's a multi-year initiative that lets you know that we are in partnership now with the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. They represent 530 colleges and universities around the country, and every year they're adding almost 30 institutions to their numbers. And as you know, a definition of a Hispanic serving institution is 25% Hispanic student enrollment, but a majority of these Hispanic serving institutions are also educating very large numbers of African Americans and Asians and girls. And so we need to figure out a way to kind of put it all together and try to have a common development of these diverse communities so that they can enjoy the economic opportunities that this country offers. And so from that perspective, you know, we're delighted to be strategic partners and co-collaborators with Keith and KDM and the rest of the team that sees a common future of really great opportunities for all communities, especially those that are trying to raise themselves from poverty and seek to get better education through some of our institutions, whether they're Hispanic serving institutions or HBCUs or some of the MSIs that are out there. And so, you know, we're very delighted to be part of this. And so we're looking forward to the future. And at some point in time with this pandemic over, hopefully we can meet in person, break bread, and get a lot of new friendships developed. So I want to thank everybody for inviting me and for listening to our message. And we look forward to working with you.
Jose, thank you so much for literally your appreciation for what we're doing and you making commitments as a Hispanic in energy and your network being an alliance, because I see a perfect alliance. And as I said to Jose in one of our conversations, I said, you know, I don't know if it was because I studied in South America back in 1977 that this is my reward, because there was a cultural, communicative appreciation and value that really goes well beyond the shores of where we sit and, you know, today here in Alexandria, Virginia. Uh, and I do remember those days as if they were almost yesterday, of being in South America and feeling welcome for my, ability to speak the language, my ability and desire to immerse into the culture. And so this literally gets back to Nick's comment about building community, um, and a diverse community that has a appreciation for the power of diversity. And when we include innovation, where we look at young people that Joyce teaches from fifth grade to the students that she works with in her program that are high school, they're products. They're products and of value to their next pathway for education in terms of the university that not they have the option to go to, but the option that the university has to pick such talent and be ultimately selected to be the next extension of those young people's pathway for their career. It's a competition out there, HBCUs and land grants. It is competition to get the best and the brightest and those who come from diverse backgrounds. We have to find a common path, and I think that this summit and the initial diverse aggregation of talent like yourselves, the speakers, and the policies that we have to support advancing us moving forward is the excitement. Well, listen, wanted to surprise you a bit, wanted to let you know that we were staying woke and were listening. And you know what? Nick has got a big grin because, and I know you've been listening, Joyce, because you found your way into another field trip uh, to North Carolina, where North Carolina State University has the largest plant science lab in the country being built as we speak. So, Nick, I think you see where our students are coming from the east here and coming south. All right, and that's yet she's going to be in Florida with her students, the high school students, and we'll be in North Carolina over the next few years. But
There's a revolution in agriculture coming.
Yeah, that's right.
And literally, I love that little film the student did because I get up every morning and my wife farms, and she farms in a little garden. It's about 4 foot wide and 2 foot deep, and it feeds us all of our salads every day.
Yeah.
And I love basil too. You tell that young lady that it's the best sauce to put on any pasta meal ever.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is at that hour where we're going to ask you one final round of question, and that is, in your opinion, 1, 2, 3, where do we go from here? Want to put it down in my notes, and let's go home and celebrate the last 2 days of discovery. This has been a great summit.
Mm-hmm.
Nick?
Yes.
So I would leverage some of the people we've brought together, like Carol Thomas's Manufacturing Extension Program. And I would ask them to help us with agricultural extension, which is normally co-located with it, and look at the opportunities for that and challenge our federal programs to drive STEM education. So I'm going to champion, you hit my heart, Joyce. So I'm going to champion that STEM education, to push that STEM education out through every one of these public-private partnerships and manufacturing institutes. And sometimes we're so busy worrying about the dollar cost that we fail to remember we need to think in the long term, from the time the children are small till they take over our jobs in the fields, right? And in the factories tomorrow. Over.
Okay. Thank you for that. Jose, what do we need to do next?
I would, can you hear me okay, Keith?
Yes.
I would recommend that we put together a white paper that summarizes the key discussions over the last 2 days. And I would suggest that we consider, a long-range plan of integrating the industry needs with the views and the opportunities in terms of human resources, young people all the way to young adults and adults that are available in the agricultural community for retraining and education with a STEM emphasis. And putting communities together, and I would recommend that that white paper be shared with key industries representing not just agriculture but also the energy sector, and talk about how that sector can be a contributing factor to answering the energy needs of the country in the future. And I think a lot of it is moving towards green energy. So I think that, no matter who wins the presidential election, I think green energy is going to continue to grow. And so I think if we have a white paper that, memorializes some of the key thoughts and puts forth a vision of what can happen if communities work together and the stakeholders, government and industries, and the people that are represented in the agricultural communities, I think that something like that would be very beneficial. And of course, white papers don't have to be too extensive, but they could be very powerful in formulating policy.
Charles Sills, if you're listening, my editor, I look forward to it. Joyce, you have the next to the last word.
Well, for me, it's now reaching out, and I see that everyone is supportive, but definitely for our children, making connections for them. It is so powerful for them to see the robots. We have a robotics program at Braddock, but it is awesome for our students to see the robots that are being used in agriculture. And they have been a floor plan for them to start creating their own robots to create jobs for themselves. As you saw, the two young ladies that are working with gardening. We want to train our students and our families to start growing basic things at home. We are feeding 400 to 500 families every week. We have donations of groceries coming from some of our partners, but that's going to run out. If we can teach our students and our families to just grow some things at home, share with one another, they create their own market. And that it lessens the burden for everyone.
I have some wonderful ideas stirring in my head based upon everything that I've heard, and some of the things that I've said have been validated. I want to thank Melvin Anderson for being our production lead, taking the bold step with me and us and our team to venture into space nowhere that we've frontiered before online for 2 days. We are so thankful for all of our team members at KDM, the power of Video Niche and What Works Online, and the new partnerships, the senior advisors like Nick and Charles Sills, and the list goes on with Coders Who Travel, AAAS. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to all the federal agencies that we will be able to go in together, like Jose says, with the white paper that unifies and builds a community. This has been a wonderful experience, not to be anything but acted upon, never forgotten about, one day at a time. And truly, we will see evidence, measurable metrics that show that we are committed and serious about what works in America and beyond. Thank you so much for this wonderful 2-day experience, and thank you for being our partners. We look forward to the journey. This has been Keith Moore saying goodbye for now until tomorrow. Take care.